All right, guys. Our next guest needs very little introduction. He's returning to the show. He is a legend in mixed martial arts, a UFC Hall of Famer, and also a legend in the sport of pro wrestling. He'll be fighting none other than Kimbo Slice on June 20th at Bellator 138. He is Ken Shamrock. Ken, welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Still good, still good. You know, so much has changed since we last spoke to you just a few months ago. You know, before we get into that, we saw you were in attendance at the Justin Bieber roast, hanging out with Shaq. How did you enjoy the experience? And did Shaq give you any advice for your Kimbo fight? You know, we know he's a big MMA fan.
Yeah, Shaq told me to get bigger. Okay. But it was a good experience. You know, I met a lot of people there. It was a fun experience, and to see how they actually shoot that thing, and Justin Bieber sitting up there taking all the abuse. It was, like I said, it was a fun experience, and enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, certainly. Now, Ken, you and Kimbo are set to meet at Bellator 138 in June. For those that don't know, the fight actually almost happened in Elite XC in 2008. You haven't fought in 5 years. What was it that drew you to returning to fight Kimbo?
Well, like I said, when I had stepped away from the sport, it wasn't by choice. It was just because I believed that the season for me at that time was dead. It was really nothing out there for me. No fights really made sense. But I always, in the back of my mind, felt like if the opportunity came around, I would make sure that I, kept myself in shape, make sure that I was physically prepared to be able to go back in and fight again if the right fight presented itself. Because I've always mentioned that there's a couple fights out there that I'd like to have, and I've always been kind of waiting and seeing if those opportunities would come around. Well, when Kimbo signed with the Bellator, I heard about it, and of course, I had my business partner Des Woodruff call and say, "Hey, that's a fight that definitely interests me. Let's see if we can get it." I was getting ready to do a fight, a Bareknuckle fight, which also made sense and sounded fun for me. So we put that aside when I heard that Kimbo had come back and was going to fight in Bellator, and that was unfinished business for me. I felt like there were some things that were said on his behalf and on some of the people that were surrounded the Elite XC at the time that really made me angry. And so I had always kept in my back of my mind that if I had the opportunity to set that straight, I would do so.
Yeah, certainly. What was it, just for the people that don't realize, what was it that Kimbo said that sort of ticked you off? What kind of stuff did he say?
Well, when the thing happened, there was a lot of accusations being said about my cut and how it happened, and saying that I didn't want to fight him, I was afraid of him, which is, come on, that's ridiculous. I made a living at fighting, and fighting a guy like Kimbo who has no experience whatsoever on the ground. I'd have spanked him like a little child. So it was actually a blessing for him that I didn't fight, because I don't believe he would ever fought again after that fight. But it was what it was. He said the things that he said. My father was in the hospital. He went into a coma and was going through some complications. And I believe that's what bothered me the most, was that when I was going through these difficult times in my life with someone that had really gave me an opportunity at life, and that was a special person in my life, and then to be treated and talked to the way that I was during that time by him and his people was very disrespectful to me, and that's one of the reasons why, in the back of my mind, if I ever had the opportunity to fix this unsettled business between me and him, I would jump all over it. And we have that opportunity now for me to be able to go in there and really set the record straight on who Kimbo Slice is and who Ken Shamrock is.
Sure. And, it's funny because Seth Petrozelli actually had similar sentiments when we spoke to him about, Kimbo and his backstage crew. I want to ask you, Ken, because last time we had you on the show, you were talking about moving on with, the next phase in your life, in your career, and you were saying how, you can't fight forever and things like that. And you didn't quite disclose what you had planned, but you said you had big plans, and we weren't sure what kind of business opportunities they were going to be. And now it seems obviously you're back in fighting. Was this always the goal, or were you going to do something completely different, and then this Kimbo fight came along?
Well, I'm involved with a lot of business ventures. In fact, I was actually involved in getting ready to launch a few of them. One of them we have, which is the SEPA Shamrock Executive Protection Agency, where I had gone out and did some personal protection work to get to know the landscape of this industry. And now I have my own business. We have a business plan. We have the investors. We have the actual website. We have it all set up and ready to rock and roll. So that's definitely something that I put my time and effort into personally in the field and also in the office, learning what we need to do to get this thing going. And we're at that beginning stages now. We're ready to launch the Shamrock Executive Protection Agency. We don't want a lot of advertisement on it, obviously. We want to go more stealth type, direction. We believe we can get, more significant jobs that way, obviously. So, but that's in the works and getting ready to go. They'll also have a pro-age management company for professional fighters, where we manage fighters. That's something we're doing. And then, of course, launching the Shamrock Slam drink, which was something that we were also working on at the time. We were actually getting the shelf life to make sure that it was going to pass the inspections. And now that we are past all that, now we're actually doing a launch of the Shamrock Slam drink around the same time that I'm doing this fight. When the fight came out and this opportunity arose, I thought I saw a great opportunity to be able to, one, settle some unfinished business, two, use the opportunity with the fan base and the people that are going to follow this fight to also let people know my new business ventures.
Yeah, certainly right, Ken. I mean, a lot of exciting stuff happening. Let's look at this fight with Kimbo. First of all, obviously, it's been a while since you've been in the ring, so it must be tough to shake off some of that ring rust. Who are you working with to prepare for Kimbo? What areas are you focusing on in your preparation?
Well, I'm not going to get into who I'm working with and how I'm working. I'm working with some guys that I've known for a very long time. I have trained a lot of people in my time, and I'm bringing people in that I know that I can trust, and that I can work with, and that I can move forward in my direction of being able to put an end to Kimbo Slice. I'm very excited about this fight. I'm very excited where I'm at right now, and most of all, I'm very excited about how my body's responding. And I could talk all day long and tell people how I feel and how healthy I am, but we hear that all the time with fighters. So for me, it's just basically blowing hot air right now. What I want to do is I want to prove it. I'm going to get in the ring and I'm going to show people who I am and how my body has responded through training by going in the ring and just destroying Kimbo Slice.
Now, Kimbo Slice has a bit of a youth advantage. He's 10 years younger. What do you see as your main advantages in this matchup?
Well, he may be 10 years younger, but I've kept myself in shape. I've treated my body very well over the years, and I've stayed in training, and I don't put on a whole lot of extra weight. I've always stayed in shape, and I've kept myself physically fit. And so when I step in the ring, you're going to think he's the one that's 10 years older.
And obviously a lot of fans are saying Kimbo's strong suit is his striking. A lot of people do expect you to take Kimbo down and submit him. What are the chances that we may see Ken Shamrock dominate Kimbo Slice in the striking department?
Kimbo Slice is not a good striker. I don't know where they're getting it from. The guy did some boxing with some hand-picked opponents that didn't have chins and that couldn't box a lick. In fact, most of them had two left feet. So I don't know where they're getting this from. I don't know how they're saying this guy's that good. I've never thought that he's been that good. I've never even, except for the very first time when I went in and I was going to fight him, I always thought, okay, well, obviously he's winning some of these fights, even though they're hand-picking him. He's still knocking guys out, so he's got to have something there. When I watched Seth Petrozelli going against him and do what he did to him, I was pretty much convinced that this guy shouldn't be in MMA, and not even in boxing. The guy couldn't even make it in boxing. I mean, they tried to handpick fights. They tried to push him. And I think people have finally realized, that this phenomenon from the website, the YouTube, or whatever he came from, and they put him in the ring and they handpicked fights for him and blew him up. And that tremendous job. I'm not hacking on these guys. I thought that was a brilliant job for them to do what they did and keep him as they did. That was tremendous. I mean, that's a feat that can't be done again. I'm almost bet it can't be done again. So hats off to them for doing it, but that gig is up.
Now, Missouri Office of Athletics Director Tim Lukenhoff told MMAfighting.com that both you and Kimbo will need to undergo additional testing and will, of course, need medical clearance before you're granted a license to compete in the state. Is any part of you at all worried that Kimbo may not pass, as he does have a few lingering injuries that he's acquired over the years, I think namely his knees?
Well, listen, we all acquire injuries through the years. Is whether or not you really want to fight or not. That's the question.
Yeah, certainly. Now, if your fight goes to plan against Kimbo, a lot of fight fans are wondering, what are the opportunities and what are the chances that we may see Ken Shamrock stick around in Bellator and have a few more fights?
That's not even a thought. You know, I came out of this time because the opportunity arose that I could get a fight that I thought would be entertaining to the fans, and I thought it definitely was entertaining to me and one that I wanted. Mm-hmm. And that it made sense. And so I came out to get that fight. Anything other than that, I'm not interested in right now. And it's, you know, like I said, it's got to make sense to me. It's got to be a fight I want. It's got to be interesting to the fans, and it's got to make sense, money sense.
So just to clarify, sort of reiterate, you're not sort of coming back on like a 4-fight contract and just see how it goes. This is a fight that you're taking because you want, and afterwards you may fight again or you may not, depending on whether it's an interesting fight. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, if there's another fight that I think that people know that I want and that they want to see, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, certainly. Now, Ken, let's talk about your other big fight that's happening, obviously the bare-knuckle boxing match. We believe it's scheduled against James Quinn. What made you decide to want to fight James in a bare-knuckle boxing match?
Well, you know, they came to me with this other kid they thought would be good, and this kid was probably a pretty tough kid, but like I said, the things that I look at is marketability, and does it make sense for me to fight? And can I market it? Is it marketable? And when I looked at the first opponent that came at, I just didn't see a way to really have this fight. And it was a younger guy, and it just doesn't make sense for me to want to fight somebody younger. I'm not going to get anything out of it. It's hard to market somebody that doesn't have a record yet. So I had to pass on that. Well, they came back to me with a guy that was a legend in bare-knuckle fighting, James Quinn, and was undefeated. And I was like, okay, now this has got some legs to it. He's not, 27 years old in his prime. He's, out of his prime like myself, we're up in age, but we still love to fight. We can definitely put on a fight. And I thought to myself, it's marketable because he's undefeated. This is what he's done his whole life. I'm a bare-knuckle fighter myself in the earlier days, and I've made a name for myself in MMA. We could put these two guys together, myself and him, and we could market this thing and make some tremendous money marketing this fight, and the fans are going to get a blast out of it. So to me, it was a no-brainer. Yeah, let's do it. Let's have this fight and let's do it. So that's the reason why I actually stepped into this fight, was because it made sense. It marketing and the actual opponent made sense.
Well, I'm fascinated by this because, the way you've broken it down, okay, I can definitely see why it makes sense. But from what we know, bare-knuckle boxing is considered unsanctionable. So, it will be happening in a secret location. I guess the big question is, why return for a fight that most fans won't be able to watch live?
Well, that fight's not going to be secret. We're going to put that on pay-per-view.
Oh, wow.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
That's going on pay-per-view.
Right, okay, because I guess those details are sort of lost amongst the rubble. So usually bare-knuckle boxing matches are just those ones that they upload onto YouTube, but you're saying this will actually be a pay-per-view event that you guys will be promoting.
So this fight's going to be on pay-per-view. Anybody's going to be able to get it. The Bellator one's going to be on free TV. The bare-knuckle boxing with James Quinn is going to be on pay-per-view. We're not hiding this fight. People want to see it, and it's not illegal. It's not dangerous. We're going to educate people on the gloves and also without the gloves. When we actually bring this fight out, we're going to have people who have tested the results on this and understand how the brain works and how much damage is taken over and over by putting a glove on the hand and pounding you in the head with your brain bouncing off the walls 120 times in a fight, as opposed to a bare-knuckle fight where you're only going to hit them 3, 4, maybe at the most 20 times before you put them away.
Yeah, certainly. I guess my question to you, Ken, is who's going to sanction this? Is there a body or a party that can sanction this? Is that has to go through an athletic commission? How's it going to come together?
Yeah, it won't be sanctioned. It'll be just like when No Holds Barred first started out in MMA. It was an event, and you go get licensed for one event, and then you put it on. And it's not illegal to do that. It's just not sanctioned by the governing body. but doesn't mean you can't still do the event. It doesn't mean you can't still put it on TV.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Sorry to interject, Kaz, but I was wondering, with bare knuckle boxing, obviously in the rules, one person brings a person with them to referee the fight, and another person brings another person with them to referee the fight. Will it be the same kind of rules, or is it sort of going to be like just bare knuckle boxing, like boxing without any gloves, and it'll just be one referee?
Well, I mean, this is going to be an event where there'll be multiple fights on it.
Okay.
And it's going to be just like a regular event. We're going to have a referee there. We're going to have doctors there. It's going to be a regular event. It's just not going to be sanctioned because there are no rules to it yet.
And I guess one other question, because from what we've seen with bare knuckle boxing, a lot of it's taking place in, like, fields and meadows. Is this one going to be in an arena?
Oh, it's going to be an arena, man. We're gonna have it in a special lane. It's going to be unique, and we're going to have it in a venue, and it's going to be no different than what you see with MMA, boxing, or wrestling, or anything that holds an event in an arena. Like I said, it's no different than when No Holds Barred first started out, and they couldn't get sanctioned in cities. They had to go in and get licenses in order to hold the event. That's all we're going to do. It's going to be the same thing.
Okay. Well, now we can visualize it. And, I've just got one more question in regards to this bare knuckle boxing thing, because, I think it obviously took a lot of fans and, ourselves by surprise. And I read in an interview that you were saying that, you think bare knuckle boxing is going to take off. Certainly not something that I expected, but I mean, hey, I don't want to be close-minded given where MMA came from, where it is now. Do you think the bare knuckle boxing, could be big in a few years and possibly, have a big uprising like mixed martial arts did back in the day to now?
Oh, absolutely. I think if you look at the landscape of society, and people are always leaning toward the extreme sports. It was a big craze there with skateboarding and motocrossing and mountain biking and CrossFit training, and it just seems like everything's getting more extreme. People want more extreme. And bare knuckle boxing, if you looked at No Holds Barred when it first started out, people didn't come there because they wanted to see somebody get choked out or get leg locked. They came there because it was bare knuckle, and that people were going to stand up and punch each other. That's what drew everybody to the first part of No Holds Barred. Then it turned to MMA, but yet still people were watching it because it's got little gloves on it. People were standing up punching each other. But the big draw in the beginning was bare knuckle. And people kept saying, stand them up, fight like a man, stand them up, fight like a man. And I remembered this very clearly. They always want you to stand up and fight. And so we're going to give it to them. We're going to cut through the chase. We're going to take the gloves off. We're going to give them 3 rounds of 5 minutes each, a straight bare knuckle.
Yeah, certainly. Now, we mentioned James Quinn, obviously one of the best bare knuckle boxers in the world. Let's talk about this matchup for a second. I mean, you're one of the greatest legends in MMA. How do you see this one going? And, what do you feel like your advantages are in this matchup? Obviously, you're a professional fighter and James is a bare knuckle boxer.
Well, I think that I think James wants to be as ugly as possible. He wants to clinch, wants to tie up, wants to punch, and he wants it to be dirty. Yep. And that's how he's going to have to win the fight. I want it to be clean. I want it to have some spacing. I want it to be clinching, but at the same time clinching, and I want to be the one in control. And I want to be the one getting off on the punches. And he just wants to make it real dirty, real unorthodox, because that's how he's going to win the fight. And I've got to make sure that it doesn't go that way. I got to make sure that I control the clinch and that I control the footwork and the spacing.
And obviously, I've got sort of 2 more questions. Given your background in obviously grappling and how good you are, and obviously, and with your leg locks, will it be hard for you to sort of resist those natural, I guess, urges and reactions to go for like a takedown or a leg lock? And also, are you sort of in training as well for this fight while at the Kimbo fight at the same time?
No, I'm completely focused on the fight right now with, obviously with Kimbo. That's my focus.
Yeah.
And so my training is very, very, very directed towards that fight. The Quinn fight will be very simple for me. It's basically just cutting out takedowns. That's it. Just cut out the takedowns. There'll still be clinches. There'll still be punches that I do. But again, I think that it's not the takedown that's going to be trickiest or the leg locks are tricky. It's just the part of not throwing elbows and not throwing knees.
Yeah, certainly. And just to be clear, because we were having trouble finding the exact date, have you guys sort of come down on a date that it's going to be happening, or is it still all up in the air and it's sort of going to be around a certain time period?
As far as I know right now, I know it's going to be the first part of September. But again, who knows? There's no date that's been put down on paper yet, but that's what I've been told.
Okay, wonderful. Well, look, we have a couple of fan questions for you, Ken, that we'll quickly ask you. We'll let the fans know that you're coming on, and as always, you're one of their fan favorites. The first one comes from the Night King. He goes, Ken, a fellow WWE superstar, Brock Lesnar, decided to re-sign with the WWE and retire from the sport of MMA. As someone who's obviously a legend in both, what's your opinion on his decision? Do you think he made the right choice?
I think his choice is whatever he feels he needs to do is going to be the right choice, and don't second guess himself. Whatever choice he makes is going to be the right one. He's a star in both. He's proved himself in both. So whatever he chooses is going to be the right one for him.
All right, Ken, we're going to round off the interview with a quick submission radio tap-out round. I've done it before a couple of times with us. We ask you a bunch of fun questions and you answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. First question is, if you could have one pro wrestling match with anybody who you never got the chance to, who would it be and why?
Royce Gracie. And the reason why is because I believe that the second time that we fought, I won that fight, and I'm not getting credit for it.
Right. Now, Ken, we actually looked up and saw that you're living out of a motorhome currently as it works with your training. Why the choice to live in a motorhome for this training camp?
Well, I think it pretty much closes everything in. There's no distractions. I go from my training into my motorhome. I watch film. It really takes away a lot of distractions, and I can just basically focus just on my training and my eating and my supplements.
Sure. Ken, thoughts on WrestleMania? Did you get a chance to watch any of it?
I didn't. I wish I would have. I heard it was good.
Now, you were recently doing some appearances with Tito Ortiz, Fedor Emelianenko, Royce Gracie. What's it like when all of you guys get together? It must be a fun time.
Yeah, it's fun, too, when you're not worried about a fight or you're going to be fighting a guy and you're just guys hanging out, having fun. It was a good time.
Now, you're an owner of the world's largest amateur MMA league, Fighter Source. What made you want to get involved in this part of the industry?
Well, when my business partner had actually looked them up, and he saw a good fit for me because he kind of knew my passion and what I wanted to do, and he kind of put that together, and we did the meetings. And as soon as I got in the meetings with those guys and on the phone, I realized that their vision and their passion was the same as ours and mine. And so my direction with that really started to hone in and focus on trying to get that deal done, because I want to work with fighters that are up and coming, that are hungry, and that still appreciate knowledge and learning. And so that's the reason why I have a passion for amateur fighting, is because I believe that they still have the desire to learn and want to learn.
Scott Coker and Dana White, both great minds in MMA. You've worked with both. What would you say is the biggest difference from experiencing working with both?
Scott Coker and who?
And Dana White.
Oh, I think Scott Coker has a more of an openness to him. I believe that his mannerisms to fighters are much more respectful, and that he does listen to them. And I think Dana White has become tainted. I like Dana. We've put our differences aside, and I want to move forward and have our friendship. But I think Dana's got so much on his plate and doing so much that he forgets the personal side to the business.
Sure. Second last question, Ken. Have you set an age for yourself till, which you want to fight till, or is fighting something you can never truly retire from?
Well, I don't think you can fairly do that. I think if you set a time for yourself, then you basically are just sitting there waiting for that time to end.
Yeah, I feel like fans are always asking the next question, Ken, and this is always to do with the WWE. Are we any closer to seeing Ken Shamrock in the Hall of Fame? Have you had anybody speak to you about it? Have you spoken to Vince about it since we last chatted?
No one's ever brought it up. No one spoke about it. I know the fans keep saying something and they keep asking, but I don't think anybody's listening.
Well, we're with them on that one. Finally, Ken, give us the official prediction. How are you planning on beating Kimbo Slice at Bellator 138 on June 20th?
Well, I mean, if he sticks his chin out there, if he gets aggressive and he comes at me, I'm going to knock him out. And if he gets, too crazy or and doesn't protect himself, I'll take him down. So to me, I can beat him anywhere I want to beat him. And that's going to be the fun part with this fight is that I'm going to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Well, there you guys go. Guys, check out Cam Shamrock's new drink, Shamrock Slam, and his amateur MMA League fighter source. You can watch Can take on Kimbo at Bellator 138, June 19th, and follow him on Twitter at Shamrock Can. Ken, best of luck with your fight with Kimbo. I'm sure we'll be speaking to you very soon, and have a great day.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. God bless.